Your Honor, a pre-sentencing report has been prepared by one Mr. Donald Taylor, and it is my intention to make some references to it as I present my plea in mitigation. Has Your Honor had any opportunity to read through this report? Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, may I indicate to the court at this very early stage that my client, Mr. Ben Hamilton, duly recognizes the seriousness of this matter before us and has accepted that he is fully responsible for it. Your Honor, I shall, however, seek the inclination of the court to extend its arm of leniency as it considers the sentencing of my client, Mr. Ben Hamilton. I shall, Your Honor, in my plea in mitigation, raise several issues that I shall ask Your Honor to duly consider. The offense with which we are faced, that of causing death by dangerous driving, contrary to Section 1 of the Road Traffic Act of 1988, seeks to suggest, by way of sentencing, that a custodial sentence is inescapable. Your Honor, having come to that conclusion, the critical and important question happens to be, what length of sentence are we going to be looking at? And this is where I intend, Your Honor, to ask that your own discretion, your own leniency, Your Honor, be brought center stage in this matter. Your Honor, my client, Ben Hamilton, is equally aware that there are a set of aggravating circumstances. Likely, Your Honor, I think my client, Ben Hamilton, deserves some credit in that he wasted no time in putting in a plea of guilty when he was afforded the very first opportunity to so do. Your Honor, in this very tragic incident, my client Ben Hamilton himself was badly injured. In fact, he has received permanent disfiguring scars to his face, his shoulder, and his arms. And by extension, he suffered a fractured skull, fractured ribs, and a double depressed cheekbone. Clearly, Your Honor, Mr. Ben Hamilton is indeed remorseful over what transpired on that tragic night. In fact, whilst he lay on his hospital bed, dealing with the injuries that he himself sustained, he was visited by one Dr. Box, a psychologist. And the psychologist, in examining Mr. Hamilton, had this to say. He was very distressed and racked with guilt. Later on, Your Honor, the psychologist sought to meet with Mr. Hamilton in the presence of his solicitor, and the solicitor had to ask that the interview be brought to an end. And in the view of Dr. Box, again, he was of the view at that time that Mr. Hamilton was being in a fragile mental state. And to make things worse, and to show how remorseful Mr. Hamilton has been, paragraph 3.3 of the pre-sentencing report, Your Honor, the probation officer speaking here have this to say. when he addressed Mr. Hamilton. This is what Mr. Hamilton had to say to the probation officer: that he wished he could change places with the deceased if that was possible. Your Honor, clearly, if remorse is being directed, no other sentiment has been more clearly pointed in the direction of remorse than this one. Your Honor, Mr. Ben Hamilton is of 29 years. And in the recent past, he has sought to improve his own personal life by reading for an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering with the Bristol Institute of Technology at the University of West of England. In fact, Your Honor, the tragic incident that we are addressing tonight, or today, occurred as Mr. Hamilton was seeking to make his way home to complete an assignment for submission to university. Your Honor, the record would show that my client has had an infraction with the law, one infraction over the last 4 years. In fact, he has had 2 infractions total, one which is a spent conviction, and the last one over 4 years, as I said, clearly demonstrating that young Hamilton was seeking to get on the straight path. I draw your Honor's attention to section 3.4 of the pre-sentencing report, and the probation officer was speaking here, giving his opinion based on assessment. This is what he had to say: it is highly unlikely that he will engage in such dangerous behavior again, as he spoke of Mr. Ben Hamilton. Your Honor, Mr. Hamilton has a son, Daniel, who is 5 years old, and he has the responsibility of ensuring he provides financial support to Daniel, and he alternates when it comes to parenting responsibility with Daniel's mom. In fact, Mr. Hamilton has asked me, Your Honor, to ask of you to consider the stress and strains that Daniel is currently undergoing as a result of this incident as you consider sentencing him. Your Honor, my client is aware that immediate custodial sentence is likely to be his fate, and he is prepared to serve the consequences of his action. The sentencing guidelines, Your Honor, establishes 3 distinct bands for offences relative to dangerous driving causing death. I submit, Your Honor, that level 1 at the very top tier, of which the aggravating issues inclusive of flagrant disregard for the rule of the road and apparent disregard for the risks that are involved, should not apply to my client. In the second band, the aggravating issue there is that substantial risk was taken. And Your Honor, whilst that might very well be considered reasonably the circumstances of my client, Your Honor would want to take the mitigating and aggravating circumstances into consideration in working out quite naturally what would be a balancing act. I therefore humbly submit to Your Honor that the mitigating circumstances which I have brought to Your Honor's attention are quite capable of enabling Your Honor to take a quite lenient view on this matter before us. I ask Your Honor to consider the recommendations as suggested in the pre-sentence report in paragraphs 5.4, 5.5, and 5.6, and in so doing to seek to be as lenient as you possibly practically can. Your Honor, I recognize that Your Honor would have to balance, as I said before, the mitigating and aggravating circumstances of this incident, as the issue of proportionality is sought to the very end. Your Honor, this is my plea in mitigation, unless I can be of any further assistance to the court.